I propose that we move on to the second story of trial and error. I'm going to switch mic. And that brings us back to Mechelen, where I want to tell you the story about how we try to convince shop owners to make their deliveries more sustainable. And instead of doing this with slides, I have a short movie to show you that explains a bit what the business proposition was that we wanted to present to a shop owner in the inner city of Mechelen.
Minder bestelwagens, minder geluidsoverlast en minder CO2-uitstoot. Daar gaan we in Mechelen voor. Hoe doen we dat? Door goederen te laten leveren op een duurzame manier, elektrisch of met de fiets. We werken hiervoor nauw samen met logistieke partners DPD en UPS. En met de eco-couriers en CityHub loopt er een proefproject voor handelaars.
De last mile verduurzamen betekent concreet dat verzendmaatschappijen met hun busjes, zelfs vrachtwagens, want we hebben loskades ook, bij ons in het magazijn de goederen en producten komen afzetten en dat wij deze vervolgens op een duurzame manier met de fiets tot in de binnenstad brengen. De CityHub in Mechelen-Zuid is op korte afstand van het centrum van Mechelen gelegen, wat concreet betekent dat we ongeveer 9 minuutjes fietsen tot op de Grote Markt. De efficiëntiewinst is enerzijds dat wij goederen kunnen bundelen en geconsolideerd naar de binnenstad kunnen brengen. Dat wij geen rekening moeten houden met onze fietsen naar autoluwe tijdsloten. Dus wij mogen eigenlijk ten allen tijde de stad binnenrijden, wat voor het vrachtverkeer niet zo is. Ze hebben zich te houden aan tijdsloot. En anderzijds kunnen zij ook ervoor kiezen om opslagruimte die in de binnenstad relatief duur is, te verplaatsen naar het magazijn in Mechelen-Zuid.
Als alle andere handelaars mee zouden instappen in dit project, dan zijn er in principe geen bestelwagens meer in de stad. En dat geeft echt een fijn gevoel. Als shopper heb je dan de vrijheid om heel de straat te benutten, want het zijn autoluwe straten. De kinderen kunnen even rondcrossen. Je moet niet gestrest zijn als moeder van waar zijn mijn kleine pagadders. En zo. Dus dat is voor hen, de handelaar, tijdswinst, want je hebt maar 1 keer levering per dag. En je maakt van de stad een heel aangename stad om te shoppen. En dat vind ik heel belangrijk.
Doesn't that sound easy and interesting to say yes to? But no, it wasn't that simple. To explain you a bit more about what we proposed to the shop owner, it was a pilot project that we called Total Logistical Unburdening for the Shop Owner. We reasoned that for the shop owner, his logistics is something that it's something extra, and he doesn't want to be disturbed about it. So we thought if we can present him or her something that really frees him completely of his logistics tasks, then he can make a better business, because then he will have more time to sell. So we organized this pilot project in cooperation with our operating CityHub, ODTH in Mechelen, and with our local bike courier, eco-couriers. And we proposed, as was presented in the movie, we asked the shop owner, have your goods delivered not at your shop, but at the CityHub. Have it consolidated there, and have it then delivered in a consolidated way by a cargo bike at a moment of your choice, when it fits you the best. Next to this delivery trajectory, the CityHub also has extra services for the shop owner. You can rent some space to put your stock. And maybe there's an opportunity, because space in the inner city is very expensive. And maybe by moving his stock from the city center to the CityHub, he creates extra space in his shop to create more selling room. So again, this in theory sounds perfectly. That was the story that we went to present to the shop owners. What was our role as a city in this project? We were a bit the facilitator and the coordinator. We went on visits, we did meetings to convince the shop owners. We also even developed, in cooperation with the financial agency Rebel, a calculation tool. It's a complicated Excel file that helps the shop owners to recalculate what his actual logistics cost is and what it could be if he would work with the City Hub and the bike courier. And also important, what we did within the Surflogh project is we financed the last mile. Because in this story, there is an extra cost. The eco-courier doing the last mile. And of course, the shop owner wasn't prepared to pay that, so we did it out of the Surflogh budget. But we thought this gives us time to investigate if this is a business proposition that could work. The approach, as already said, together with the bike courier, a city representative, we went to visit shops and shop owners to convince them. We also approached them via retail organizations, by meetings and newsletters. And once we got an okay, there was a small startup period because the shop owner had to inform all his deliveries, all his suppliers, that the delivery address was changed. That it wasn't anymore the address of the shop, but that the delivery address was the address of the City Hub. And that took some weeks before the whole administration was set as it should be. We promised a pilot time of 6 months, and we prolonged it because of Corona. And in between, we did an evaluation. So that was a bit the approach. And then something about that famous calculation tool that we developed. What we try to do is make it visible in a quantitative way what his actual logistics cost is. The actual logistics cost is, for example, his stockroom. It's also the time his employees spend in receiving parcels, checking them, counting them, labeling them. It's also a cost, and it's all time that the employees cannot use to sell, to help clients in the shop. Our business proposition was try to replace this to the City Hub. They also offer all those services, receiving, checking, labeling, etc. And this is an example of a possible outcome. On the left-hand side, you see his actual logistics cost, and on the right-hand side, you see the cost that he would have if he would work with the City Hub and the bike courier. But of course, we are talking here about indirect logistics cost. We calculate the cost of his stock room, but the shop owner doesn't look at it like that. Often in practice, he says, I cannot incorporated my stockroom into my shop room. It's not possible. I have to do renovation and I rent it so I can pay that, etc., etc. So we realized in practice, in reality, our fantastic theoretical proposition was not that simple to implement in reality. But yet, we found some shops prepared to step into our pilot projects. This is a result of an average shop working with the bike courier and the City Hub. For 6 months, the extra cost was 600 euros. The delivery was almost every time in the same day or day plus one. In average, we saw that there were 3 to 4 deliveries in the City Hub that were consolidated in one delivery last mile by the cargo bike. We also saw that there were almost 300 zero-emission driven kilometers with the cargo bike, and that because of that, we had realized 224 avoided vehicle movements of a van in the inner city. But again, it's theory, because in practice, the shop that worked with the City Hub had a delivery of DHL. DHL went to the City Hub to deliver the parcel, but then he went into the city anyway to deliver all his other clients. So this, again, is a good theoretical result, but in reality, it's different. The outcome, what was the trial and error? It was very, very time-consuming. It took 1.5 years negotiating with shop owners to convince them to try the pilot project. So what we realized is that there is very little trust from the shop owner. It's for free, it's paid by the city, they don't have to worry about it anymore, but yet, despite all these advantages, they didn't trust the concept. And their involvement is also very low. What I mean is that they don't want to care too much about their logistics, and they don't think about the fact if it's sustainable or not. The most important is that they get it delivered on time. So yeah, the result was an error. We only convinced 3 shops in 1.5 years to participate in our project. But 2 of those 3 decided to continue and to pay the extra cost for the last mile. So for certain shop owners, it is an advantage, and they are really aware of the sustainability of it, and that is why they continue. To conclude, it's also all about behavioral change, making shop owners, but also everyone, inhabitants, tourists, logistics service providers, to think about the sustainability of it all. And that takes time. It needs a behavioral change, and we have experienced that you need a lot of time to create and to realize this behavioral change. What we also realize is it's one way to approach this business proposition. We approached it via the shop owner. It's a good way in, but it's not the only way in. You also need the other side of the process, and that is the side of the logistic service providers. You need also to have them agree on a kind of commercial agreement. And of course, flanking policy is necessary as long as we allow everyone to enter into the city with any kind of vehicle. Why would they work then via a city hub or a cargo bike? So yeah, that's what I'm trying to tell now to our board of aldermen and to our mayor. Pay attention to the needed flanking policy. Yeah, that was my last slide. So that's the story about our trial and error pilot projects. Are there any questions? It was crystal clear. Yep. I'll bring you the mic.
This workshop, this breakout session is about trial and error. Is this simply an idea that isn't that good? Will this never work, or are there factors, elements to be considered when you would do it again? Let's think of the idea that you knew all this before starting the pilot. Could you have done things in another way, which would have made it a success?
I don't think so. I think that's what's needed to realize innovation and other business models and other ways of cooperating. You need these kinds of small-scale pilot projects to learn and to make that mental shift and to create that behavioral change. And it's also all a question about volume. I believe that this business case can become profitable with the necessary volume, but I also believe that this is not a miracle solution for every kind of delivery that goes into the inner city. It will always be an end-to-end solution, but I still firmly believe in this concept. But I also believe that it is not the solution for every kind of goods delivery. I've heard already a couple of times here today in the room that that logistics companies are saying, but there is no efficiency gain to realize because we leave fully loaded from our depot to the city, so we already work as efficient as possible. So,
and a question connected to it: the outcome of this pilot, has it been discussed with the larger logistics service providers serving the city to see? One of the conclusions is that to make it a success, logistics service providers need to be involved. Did you do that, or is it
not
something?
yet? Our next step now is that we've got data now from 3 shops for 6 months. And we were thinking of doing a data analysis and also trying to extrapolate what it would mean. That we will get a result then, X zero emission driven kilometers, X avoided vehicle movements for 3 shops. And what we hope with the data analysis that we can also calculate what it would mean if 50 shops would do it. And then you get a quantified analysis of this pilot project, and then you have something more specific to present to the logistics companies. So now I don't think we have enough conclusions yet to go into discussion.
A suggestion from someone online: are there any logistics service providers in the audience who can reflect, or is this mostly a public-oriented group? I do not see any hands. No private companies here, so otherwise we could have discussed it here.
But we have a debate coming up in 20 minutes, so I think that's maybe the good forum to bring this topic up again.